We bring in Pat Forty, a Kentucky resident and senior writer for ESPN.com. Pat, what defines a successful basketball coach at Kentucky?
Well, you have to win huge, Steve, and not just win big, win huge. You have to win national titles. You have to go to Final Fours, and you have to have a personality that is as big as a very big job. Adolph Rupp had that. Rick Pitino had that. Tubby Smith did not have that. Billy Gillispie certainly did not have that. John Calipari has that. Now we'll see if he wins huge. As you pointed out, they've lined up an awful lot of good players, and the expectations are to win huge now.
Your colleague Dana O'Neill wrote on ESPN.com, quote, Billy Gillispie's gravest miscalculation was that he failed to recognize how much all the non-basketball stuff mattered. Why is that such a big deal at Kentucky?
Because the fans care so much. I mean, that's why there are 24,000 people there for a practice when they open practice on Midnight Madness. You know, it's a year-round love affair with the program. It's a love affair with the coach if the coach loves them back. And so that's you have to be in the spotlight. You have to be out amongst the public. You've got to be selling, and you've got to be buying everything that Kentucky fans are giving you. And John Calipari, I mean, he's off to an unbelievable start on that front. He's got 61,000 people following him on Twitter. You know, he's brought back former players and put them in coaching positions or staff positions there. So I think that, you know, he's won the press conference, he's won the PR battle, and now he's winning the recruits as well.
You had written on ESPN.com a different perception of John Calipari. What is your perception of him?
Well, my perception is that, especially for a school like Kentucky, which 2 years ago had marked concerns about John Calipari because of some of the things in either in his past or in the way he's gone about business. What changed in those 2 years? Why did they all of a sudden become so much more comfortable with a coach who has taken some academic risks, who has been at times a lax disciplinarian, a guy who has some black marks in his past, certainly that UMass vacated Final Four, who doesn't employ but uses a friend, William Wesley, as one of his basically ace recruiters, at least in terms of advising players on where to go. And I think Wesley did have an impact on John Wall's decision. And, you know, Kentucky made a remarkable about-face in their viewing of John Calipari in 2 years, and I think we know why. I think they're desperate to win.
And what is the fan base in Lexington saying about that?
Oh, right now the fan base is thrilled to death about the signatures on the letters of intent. They're thrilled to death that Patrick Patterson's come out of the draft. They think that Jody Meeks is probably going to come out of the draft, and they're talking about going to the Final Four next year. There were posts on UK message boards saying we can run the table in the SEC. Some people even said we can run the table, period, even though that hadn't been done in 34 years or so. So, I mean, the excitement level. Joe B. Hall, the former UK coach, has a radio show in Louisville and Lexington. He said he's never seen a fan base this excited, and that says a lot for Kentucky basketball.
Well, what will that first clash between Rick Pitino in Louisville and John Calipari in Kentucky be like this winter?
I think it's the moment of the year in college basketball. Probably be early January 2010. And, I mean, we're talking about two fierce rivals, and this rivalry has always been a great one, but I think it goes back up to the level that it was in the 1980s when it was Denny Crum against Joe B. Hall. And given the amount of anticipation, Rick Pitino, who's had a very difficult offseason going into Rupp Arena, if he thought the reception was bad when he first came back and took the Louisville job, it could possibly even be worse this time, and he could be facing a loaded Kentucky team. Louisville's going to be very good as well, so it's going to be fascinating.
Finish this sentence, if you will, Pat. The John Calipari era at Kentucky will only fail if
they don't win it all or if they go on probation. Those are the only two ways it could fail.
And the biggest satisfaction for Kentucky fans will have to be what?
Well, they don't want to just win it all this year. They want to win it all every year.
Pat Forty, senior writer for ESPN.com. As always, we appreciate you joining us on Outside the Lines.
Thanks, Steve.